What's up, everyone? Today I just wanted to take a look at a problem that somebody had come to me with, and we were able to get it working. So this one is about somebody who has a bunch of files in a folder, two folders. One of them is titled images and the other one's titled JSON. And in each of these folders they have 12,000 files. They correspond with each other. 1.png and 1.json and so on. He wants to redistribute them in other subfolders in new directories with the same structure, images and JSON, and into a new folder structure with 500 files each instead of one large one with 1,200 files each. Except he wants them to be randomly distributed, except have the corresponding files still together. So it'll be a new subdirectory with folders in it including images and JSON and a random distribution from the original 1200. So it would be like 566 PNG, 566.json, and 122 PNG, 122 JSON, so on. And in this case, because there's 12,000 each, and you need 500 in each directory, it's going to come out to about 24 folders. Doesn't need to be tied to this number, just needs to read the file count in the two main directories and then redistribute it 500 each. So the way I wanted to start this is create a directory structure that mimics that. So we'll do a new folder called images and a new folder called JSON. And we'll use PowerShell to create the example files, and we'll do just over 2,000 for a good example test. So we'll do we get in here and then we'll say go into images, and I have a function called touch that'll just create empty file. So we'll do 1 through 2300 for each touch, and we'll say this .png. See what happens. Let's see what's going on here. Still going. It's creating all these files. They're just empty files. And it's about finished up here. There we go. So now I got 2,300 files here. And we'll do the same for JSON. So now it's going to have the same files in JSON, 1 through 2,300 in JSON and 1 through 2,300 in PNG. And the goal is to create subfolders with 500 files each from a random selection, but they still got to match up. So while that's going, I'll show you the script that I came up with. Oh, he's also got an example of what it should look like. He created a flowchart. So 2 of 24 directories. First one and the second one, A1 subgroup 500 images in JSON, 500 random images, and the corresponding JSON files. Same here. None of them can repeat. Total should still be, 2,400. 12,000 for images, 12,000 for JSON. So the script I came up with is this. Working path is going to be ctemp new, because that's where we're starting. It's going to be the root. Images is going to get all the files. In our images folder, and it's also going to get all the files in our JSON folder for JSONs. And we'll say there was another condition that I wasn't aware of until later. So this piece and something at the very end, this piece is extra. He also wants, there's a file in the JSON folder called _metadata, and that also has to exist in each of the new JSON folders. Nothing specifically changed with that. It just needs to be copied into each of the other folders. So we're just going to say where the base name doesn't equal metadata. So let's go ahead and run these right quick. Working path is this. Images equals this. So let's see what we got here. All the images. Same thing for the JSON files. This just gets the JSON metadata file, join path, ctemp new, and the JSON folder, and _metadata.json. So it equals this. And I just have a check in here. If it doesn't find that file, then it throws an error. In this case, I didn't create it, so let me go ahead and create it. Because it's in his source files, it's supposed to already exist. So let me go ahead and just create that. New text document. And we'll just call it _metadata.json. Now whenever we run this, it's fine. We'll do a quick check just to make sure there's an even number of files, because we don't want to continue with moving. We're not doing a copy, we're doing a move. So we don't want to continue with any of this work if all the files don't match up. So this is just going to make sure that the number of images we found matches the number of JSON files we found. Create a hash entry. Make sure it has exactly 2. This is just another check just to make sure that all the files match up. And also hashes are sometimes faster to work with when you're comparing files. So create an empty hash. And for each of the images in the images array, for each image in images, we're going to add to the hash table. And also same thing for JSONs. And they're adding these to the same hash. So when we're done with this, this is what it's going to look like. Hash. And we're adding the base name, so that's just going to be the name. In this case, the number of the PNG or JSON file. And then the value is going to be the full path. So in this case, add the number as the key, and then the value is going to be full path of the PNG, and then the same thing down here for JSON, except we're not adding it because it's supposed to already exist because they're supposed to match up. So we're just going to say hash at that same ID, we're going to add whatever's currently there along with the new path. So it doesn't replace it with the JSON path. This will keep the PNG path and then also add the JSON path. So for 2180, we got our path to our PNG and our path to our JSON file. JSON folder, images folder. Make sure each of the key value pairs in the hash table has exactly 2. So if you do this, it's just going to list all the numbers up to 2300. And it's going to say for each not property, process. Filter script. Okay, so it's just going to list all the numbers for each of them. It's going to get the number of items at that key, or the number of items in the value at that key. So it's going to be, it should be 2 for each. 1 path for PNG, 1 path for JSON. And we're just going to show which ones don't equal exactly 2. And if this is true, then we're going to get an error that says all files don't match up, because there's going to be some files that don't have exactly 2. In this case, no error. That's good. That means every entry for our hash table has exactly 2 items in it. It's going to be our path to our images, path to our JSON file. And we're going to turn them into objects rather than arrays. So it's going to do for each item. We're going to define the source image path, source JSON path, and we're going to use the destination image path and destination JSON path for later. So right now they're just going to be empty. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. It's actually not creating a new object, but it's replacing the value. So if we do like hash at 1, for example, right now it's just 2 strings, a string array, the images path and the JSON path. After we run this, instead of string array, it's going to be an object, just a single object that has these properties. So let me go ahead and run this, and then we'll do it. And you'll see instead of just the 2 strings in an array, we got a single object with these properties. Source image, source JSON, and then later on we need to get the destination where it needs to go for the image and the JSON as well. And since he said they need to be random, we'll do random order. This is just going to get all the numbers and then sort them randomly, and that's going to be our random order. It looks like they're already sorted random, but now we'll see it's shuffled it up. And in a for loop, check if current number has a remainder. That way it's evenly divisible by 500. I don't know exactly how to explain this. It's going to basically make sure that we're doing 500 files every time, or not more than 500 files every time. So current folder number is this. And this is going to loop for however many numbers are in here. In this case, 2300, because that's how many files we created. And we're going to say if our current iteration is divisible by 500, then we need to move to the next folder. Destination root is going to be our working path. And then in his example, he gave A1 through 24. And in the image here, A1, A2. So it's just going to be the letter A followed by the current folder number. And in our case, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like that. So destination root, we're going to do that. And right now it's A0. Actually, let's see if 0 mod 500, it equals 0. So in our first loop, this is actually going to increase. So this is accurate. First folder is going to be A1. Images folder is going to be the folder we just created, or not, we haven't created it yet, but the folder we just defined, A1. Inside there is going to be an images folder and a JSON folder. It's going to be our destination images and our destination JSON. And now that we have those, if we look at them, it's going to be this and that, A1 images, A1 JSON. Now we just fill in those properties on the corresponding object. So we're looking in the hash table at whatever item we're in our random order. So if we look at random order, it's all these. And if we look at I, it's currently should be 0. Let me set this. So random order, our first item is going to be 61. So hash at 61. Destination image is going to be this path. And the destination JSON is going to be this path. So let's take a look at it now. Now it's got everything filled in. Source is going to be, source image is going to be images 61 PNG. Source JSON is going to be the same. And our destination is going to be in this A1 folder for both of these. Create folder if it doesn't exist. So let's test it. Doesn't exist. So if we run this, it's going to create ctemp new A1. So let's check. not here. Let me run this. There it is. Same thing for the destination folders, images in JSON. So now if we check in here, it's going to have images in JSON. Empty right now. That's fine. And then we're going to make the move. That's it. It just moves the corresponding item source image path to the destination image path and source JSON to the destination. So if we run these, we were looking at 61, right? Oops. Yeah. So here we go. In our A1 folder, images will be 61.png and our JSON folder will be 61.json. And those, since it moved, it should not exist here. So if we look at, we have 60 and 62. So it skipped over that. Same thing for JSON. It's moved out of here. So that looks right. And that's all there is to it. And this last bit copies the metadata file. It just checks everything in the root folder where the name starts with A and matches a number. So it's only getting our new folders that we created. And for each of them, it checks the JSON folder, or it doesn't check it. It gets the name of the JSON folder, so you're not getting the images and the JSON folder. And then for each of them, it's just going to copy the JSON metadata file into that location. So if we run this whole thing, it's going to take a minute. Now we should have a bunch of folders here, starting with A, and we should have no files in images. And in our JSON folder, we should have no JSONs except for the metadata file. I didn't delete that one, but I used that to copy into the new folders. So if we go back to new, A1, in images, we have a random selection, 1, 3, etc., for a total of 500. Well, in this case, there's more than 500 because we did the first item manually, and then we ran the script. So this already had an item in it. So this is 501, but that's fine. And then in our JSON, we have our metadata file. And if we go back to this one, here we've got 500. And let's see, properties. Yeah, 500 files. Same thing for JSON, and they should match up. So we've got 57911, 57911, etc. until the last one, whatever's left over. So this one's only got 299 files. It should be 300, but since we manually moved the first one already, it's in the first folder. 30, 35, 53, 30, 35, 50, and that's it. So everything's moved over now, and mission accomplished. I thought this was an interesting problem, and the solution wasn't too hard, I don't think. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. Take care.